Let me ask you something that I need you to answer honestly. In the last 6 months, have you walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went there? Have you reached for a name, the name of someone you have known for years, and found nothing but silence where that name used to live? Have you reread the same paragraph 3 times because the words were not sticking? If any of those things sound familiar, I need you to stay right here for the next few minutes, because what I am about to share with you is one of the most important things I have ever said on this channel. And it takes exactly 60 seconds each morning to put into practice. My name is Dr. James Mercer. I am a board certified physician with 35 years of clinical practice and over 40,000 patients treated. I have spent more time than I care to admit watching patients accept memory decline as an inevitable feature of growing older, watching them wave it off as senior moments, watching them quietly stop reading books they loved, stop playing card games they used to win, stop trusting themselves to remember important things without writing everything down. And for years, mainstream medicine offered them very little beyond the advice to stay socially active and do crossword puzzles. What I am going to tell you today is supported by serious peer-reviewed neuroscience, and it takes 1 minute. Before I give you the exercise, I need you to understand what is actually happening in your brain when memory starts to slip after 60, because you deserve the full picture, not a watered-down version. And the full picture starts with a structure deep inside your brain called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the brain's memory formation center. It sits in the medial temporal lobe, one on each side, and its job is to take the experiences of your daily life and convert them from short-term impressions into long-term memories. When you meet someone at a dinner party and remember their name 3 days later, that is your hippocampus working correctly. When you walk into the kitchen and cannot remember why, or when you see a familiar face but cannot retrieve the name that belongs to it, that is the hippocampus struggling. Here is what the research tells us about why this happens after 60. The hippocampus is one of only 2 regions in the adult human brain where new neurons can actually be generated throughout your lifetime. Neuroscientists call this process neurogenesis. And after 60, the rate of neurogenesis in the hippocampus naturally declines. The existing neurons do not disappear overnight, but the renewal process slows. The synaptic connections, the actual physical contact points between neurons through which memory signals travel and become less efficient, and the result is exactly what millions of seniors experience every single day. Words that slip away, names that float just out of reach, the frustrating gap between knowing you know something and being able to retrieve it. Now, here is what most doctors never explain clearly enough. The hippocampus is exquisitely sensitive to a specific protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Scientists call it BDNF. And I want you to think of BDNF as the brain's own internal fertilizer. Its job is to support the survival of existing neurons, encourage the growth of new ones, and strengthen the synaptic connections that memory depends on. BDNF literally makes the architecture of memory stronger. A brain with abundant BDNF is a brain that encodes new information more efficiently, retrieves stored information more reliably, and resists the neurodegenerative changes associated with aging more effectively. And here is the part that changes everything. Multiple peer-reviewed studies confirm that BDNF levels in the hippocampus decline significantly with age. That decline is directly linked to the memory slippage that seniors experience. But, and this is the pivotal moment of this entire conversation, BDNF production can be stimulated meaningfully, rapidly, and through something your body was designed to do since the first day you stood upright. Physical movement, vigorous physical movement specifically. The research on this connection is among the strongest and most consistent in all of cognitive neuroscience. A systematic review and meta-analysis published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine in 2025, analyzing data from multiple studies and population groups, concluded that exercise of any kind significantly boosts brain function and memory across all age groups, including older adults. A separate meta-analysis of 29 studies involving over 1,100 participants found a statistically significant moderate effect size for increases in BDNF following even a single session of exercise. Not months of consistent training, a single session. Research published in Frontiers in Neurology confirmed that acute exercise sessions, meaning short, vigorous efforts, can upregulate BDNF expression in the hippocampus, with multiple researchers noting cognitive improvements that appear even after brief physical exertion. Now, here is what this means for your 60 seconds every morning. The exercise I am about to give you is not a full workout. It is a precisely designed 60-second burst of moderate to vigorous whole body movement that triggers an acute BDNF release, a biological surge of the brain's own neurological fertilizer at the exact window in your morning when your hippocampus is most receptive to consolidating the memories it processed overnight during sleep. And here is why the timing matters enormously. During deep sleep, that specifically during the slow wave and REM stages of sleep, your hippocampus replays the events and information of the previous day. It consolidates short-term experiences into longer-term memories. It prunes connections that are not being used and strengthens connections that are. Your brain is literally reorganizing and reinforcing its memory library while you sleep. And when you wake up in the morning, there is a brief neurological window, a period of elevated neural plasticity, where the connections laid down overnight are still in a state of heightened receptivity. This is the window. And movement that elevates your heart rate in this window floods that receptive hippocampal tissue with exactly the BDNF it needs to lock those connections in more firmly. The research on vigorous acute exercise preceding memory encoding is consistent. Studies examining the effects of short bursts of higher intensity movement immediately before learning tasks found that participants who exercised before the task showed significantly better memory encoding and retrieval compared to those who did not exercise. The mechanism is not mysterious. The increased heart rate drives cerebral blood flow to the hippocampus. The muscle contractions send biochemical signals called myokines into the bloodstream, BDNF surges, and the brain that encounters the morning, your conversation with your spouse, the news you read, the name of the person you spoke to on the phone, does so with a neurological advantage it would not have had if you had simply rolled out of bed and sat down with your coffee. This is the exercise. I want you to do this every morning within 10 minutes of waking. Before coffee, before breakfast, before you check your phone, in whatever space you have available, your bedroom, your hallway, your living room. Here is exactly what the 60-second morning brain activation sequence looks like. You're going to do 3 exercises back to back with no rest between them, 20 seconds each. The first 20 seconds is marching in place with high knees and active arm swings, not a gentle shuffle, an actual vigorous march. Your knees come up toward your waist with each step. Your arms swing in opposition. When the left knee comes up, the right arm swings forward. This bilateral cross-body movement is not random. Movements that require the right arm and left leg to coordinate simultaneously and vice versa activate communication between the left and right cerebral hemispheres through a structure called the corpus callosum. Research on bilateral movement and cognitive function consistently shows enhanced prefrontal cortex activation during and after cross-body coordination exercises. In plain language, you are not just raising your heart rate, you are forcing your brain to coordinate and communicate between hemispheres. That is a cognitive workout built into the movement itself. The second 20 seconds is jumping jacks. If full jumping jacks feel too demanding on your joints at this moment, do a modified version. Step 1 foot out to the side as the arms rise, then step it back as the arms lower, alternate sides. The key is that the arms are rising overhead with each repetition. Raising your arms above your heart on every repetition increases the cardiovascular effort, raises your heart rate meaningfully in a short time, and the rhythmic, repetitive, full-body nature of the movement has been shown in research to be particularly effective at elevating circulating BDNF levels. Do this at whatever pace feels vigorous but controlled for your fitness level. The third 20 seconds is what I call the brain bridge. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart. Extend your right arm directly in front of you and simultaneously extend your left leg behind you, like a slow standing back kick while reaching forward. Hold for 2 seconds, return to standing, then extend the left arm forward and the right leg behind. Alternate for 20 seconds. This movement requires balance, bilateral coordination, and focused concentration to execute correctly. All three of those cognitive demands are activating the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for executive function, attention, and working memory. You are literally using physical challenge to exercise the brain's command center. That is it. 60 seconds. Done. Now, I want to give you the second piece of this protocol because the morning exercise activates BDNF. But what you put in your body in the 30 minutes following that activation determines how effectively that BDNF signal gets acted upon by your hippocampal tissue. The number one nutritional cofactor for BDNF expression in the brain is omega-3 DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. This is the long-chain omega-3 fatty acid that concentrates in the membranes of neurons, particularly in the hippocampus. DHA is what makes the neuron membrane fluid and flexible. Flexible membranes allow BDNF to bind more efficiently to its receptor, called TRKB. When the membrane is stiff and rigid from years of processed food consumption and omega-6 dominance, the BDNF signal cannot get through the way it should. Think of it this way. The 60-second exercise sends the BDNF signal. The DHA in your diet determines whether the receiving neurons are ready to answer the call. Within 30 minutes of your morning exercise, I want you to consume omega-3 DHA in one of two ways. If you are eating breakfast, eat 2 to 3 whole eggs. Eggs contain meaningful amounts of DHA, and they also contain the highest dietary source of a compound called choline, which is the direct precursor to acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter most critical for memory formation and retrieval. Acetylcholine deficiency is one of the defining features of Alzheimer's disease. Eating choline-rich foods every morning is not a minor nutritional choice for a person over 60. It is a meaningful daily investment in the neurotransmitter your memory depends on. If you are not eating a full breakfast, take a high-quality triglyceride form fish oil with your first meal. Look for a product with at least 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA. Take it with food so the fat in the meal carries it into absorption. The third piece of this protocol is one that the neuroscience community has become increasingly excited about, and that I believe deserves to be part of every senior's morning routine. Nasal breathing during your 60-second exercise, not mouth breathing, nasal breathing exclusively. Here is why this matters. Your nasal passages and sinuses produce a gas called nitric oxide, not to be confused with nitrous oxide, which is biologically different and serves a critical function in brain health. Nasal nitric oxide is inhaled into the lungs with each nasal breath, and from there it enters the bloodstream, where it dilates blood vessels and dramatically improves oxygen delivery to the brain. Research has shown that nasal breathing can increase oxygen uptake into the bloodstream by approximately 10% compared to mouth breathing during the same activity. For a person over 60 whose cerebral blood flow is naturally somewhat reduced from its peak, that 10% improvement in oxygen delivery to the brain during the exact window when BDNF is surging is not a trivial benefit. It is the difference between sending the signal and sending it with full signal strength. It feels slightly harder to breathe through your nose during vigorous exercise. That mild discomfort is the point. Your body is being asked to extract oxygen more efficiently. Within 1 to 2 weeks of consistent nasal-only breathing during your morning 60 seconds, most people find it feels significantly easier. The nasal passages adapt, the diaphragm strengthens, and the oxygen delivery to the brain improves with every passing morning. The fourth piece of this protocol concerns your first mental engagement of the day, and this is the piece that most people skip. In the research on acute exercise and memory encoding, the reason the pre-learning exercise window is so powerful is that the BDNF surge enhances hippocampal long-term potentiation. Long-term potentiation is the biological mechanism of memory formation. It is literally the process by which synaptic connections get stronger when they are used, and that potentiation window lasts roughly 20 to 30 minutes after vigorous exercise. During that window, your hippocampus is in its most receptive state of the day. So here is what I want you to do with those 20 to 30 minutes immediately after your 60-second exercise. Do not immediately open social media. Do not turn on the news. Do something that requires genuine mental engagement. Read 5 pages of a book. Write 3 sentences in a journal about what you want to accomplish today. Call a family member and have a real conversation. Learn 5 words of a new language using a free app. Play a game that requires strategic thinking. Any of these activities performed in the BDNF window immediately after your morning exercise are encoding more deeply into your hippocampus than they would at any other time of day. You are using the brain's own chemistry to learn and remember more effectively. This is not complicated. Wake up. 60 seconds of movement with nasal breathing. Omega-3 rich breakfast within 30 minutes. 20 minutes of genuine mental engagement done every morning, every single day. Now, let me tell you what the medical system has not communicated clearly enough about cognitive decline and why the conversation I am having with you today should have happened in doctors' offices across this country years ago. The pharmaceutical approach to age-related cognitive decline is driven by the search for drugs that can modify the disease process after it has already taken hold. The major Alzheimer's drug trials of the past 2 decades have spent billions of dollars and produced results that range from modest to disappointing. What the research community has known for years, documented clearly in journals like Frontiers in Neuroscience, British Journal of Sports Medicine, and multiple NIH-funded studies, is that physical activity is among the most reliably effective interventions for preserving cognitive function and slowing hippocampal atrophy in aging adults. A review published in 2025 examining exercise training and memory in older adults concluded that regular exercise training enhances memory performance through neuroplastic alterations, with the irisin BDNF signaling pathway identified as one of the most important links between exercising muscle tissue and brain health. Irisin is a hormone released by contracting skeletal muscles that travels to the brain and directly stimulates BDNF production in the hippocampus. Every time you contract your muscles vigorously, every time you do those high knee marches and jumping jacks and brain bridges, your muscles are releasing irisin into your bloodstream, and that irisin crosses into your brain and tells your hippocampus to produce more BDNF. Your muscles are talking to your brain, and your brain is listening. This is not theoretical. This is documented biochemistry. And the reason it is not the primary recommendation that comes out of most physician consultations is not that doctors do not believe it works. Most physicians believe it works. The reason is time. The reason is a healthcare system that does not reward the 30-minute conversation required to explain all of this clearly. The reason is that there is no prescription to write and no follow-up appointment to bill for when the recommendation is 60 seconds of morning exercise and nasal breathing and choline-rich eggs. But what I have seen in my 35 years of practice, what I have watched happen in patients who committed to daily movement and nutritional support for brain health is genuinely remarkable. Men and women in their 70s who came to me worried about their memory, who started the morning movement protocol, cleaned up their omega-3 intake, and made daily mental engagement non-negotiable, came back to tell me that their thinking felt sharper, that words were coming back more easily, that they felt like themselves again inside their own minds. That is not a miracle. That is biology doing exactly what the research says it will do when you give it what it needs. Now, let me walk you through 3 futures, and I want you to sit with each one honestly. In the first future, you watch this video and you do nothing differently. You wake up tomorrow the same way you wake up today. Lie in bed for a few minutes. Reach for your phone. Scroll through news and messages before your feet hit the floor. The BDNF surge that could have happened does not happen. The neurological window for memory consolidation that opened overnight begins to close without being leveraged in 2 weeks, in 2 months. The slow drift of cognitive aging continues on the same trajectory. No worse than today, but no better. And no better is not standing still. As the hippocampus continues its natural age-related decline without the neurological support it needs, the gap between the memory you had and the memory you have quietly widens. In the second future, you try this for a few days and then lose consistency. The first morning is good, the second morning too. Then a morning comes when you are tired or busy or simply forgot and you skip it. Then you skip it again. Then a week passes. The biology of BDNF requires consistency to produce cumulative benefit. Acute exercise produces an acute BDNF surge. But the true structural changes in hippocampal connectivity, the lasting improvements in memory architecture, build over weeks and months of daily repetition. Inconsistent practice produces inconsistent results, and inconsistent results make it easy to conclude that practice does not work. In the third future, tomorrow morning, you set an alarm, not for a full workout, for 60 seconds of movement before anything else happens. You march in place with your knees up and your arms swinging. You do your jumping jacks with nasal breathing only. You do the brain bridge with focus and balance. Then you make your eggs and take your fish oil and you spend 20 minutes reading or writing or calling someone you love. You do this every morning without exception for 2 weeks. And somewhere in those 2 weeks, you notice something. The word you are reaching for arrives a second faster. The name does not escape you the way it used to. The paragraph you read this morning is still with you when you think about it this afternoon. Your memory is not declining, it is being fed. That third future starts at the moment you wake up tomorrow. Here is my unfiltered medical opinion, and I want to be direct with you the way I am with patients who look me in the eye and ask me what they should actually do. If you are over 60 and you are noticing any degree of cognitive slippage, any increase in the frequency of memory lapses, the most powerful thing you can do right now is not expensive. It is not complicated. It is 60 seconds of vigorous morning movement, nasal breathing, a choline-rich breakfast, and 20 minutes of engaged thinking every morning, starting tomorrow. The pharmaceutical industry will spend decades and billions of dollars looking for a drug that does what those 60 seconds do for the brain. You do not have to wait for that drug. The biology is available to you right now. Before you go today, I want to hear from you in the comments below. Tell me, what is the one memory symptom that bothers you the most right now? Is it names, words, walking into rooms, short-term recall, whatever it is? Share it below. Your answers help me build the content you most need from this channel. And if this gave you something real today, subscribe right now. Because next week I am going to reveal the specific mineral deficiency that over 70% of Americans over 60 have without knowing it, and how it is directly contributing to brain fog, poor sleep, and memory problems that most doctors are blaming on age alone. You will not want to miss that one. I am Dr. James Mercer. Take care of that remarkable brain of yours. I will see you next week.